On this episode of Industry Relations, Rob and I do a year-end recap. Let's go! This is Industry Relations, a podcast at the intersection of real estate and technology from an insider's perspective with Rob Hahn and Greg Robertson. In today's tough real estate market, keeping buyers motivated and loyal is key. Now is the time to leverage the power of One Home by CoreLogic and the best-in-class data and client collaboration experience it brings. Seamlessly integrated into Matrix, One Home delivers unbeatable engagement and one of the highest customer satisfaction scores amongst the top 10 national real estate portals. More impressively, One Home leads the pack by keeping users coming back with the highest repeat visits. With One Home's invite-only access, agents can provide their clients a truly exceptional experience. Don't forget to remind your MLS members to try this great value-added benefit. If your MLS hasn't added One Home yet, please reach out to your CoreLogic rep. Thanks again to CoreLogic for sponsoring the Industry Relations podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Industry Relations with Rob and Greg. This is your co-host, the notorious Rob. And as always, my amazing co-host, the fabulous Greg Robertson.
What's up? Hello, Rob.
Hola. How are you, man?
Good, man. I got, the boy is home here for the winter break, so we like that a lot.
Yep.
And,
Our wonder producer, Cole. Yep.
That's right. So have him in, and looking forward to Christmas with the fam next week, and be a good time.
Yeah. And we're not going to do it on the podcast, but since we have Cole here, I really want his opinion on Playdate. The dating app that you and I are going to build together when our real estate.
Did you give him a rundown of that?
I haven't.
Okay.
Should we do it real quick?
Sure.
In case,
yeah. Sure.
I mean, some of our audience, right?
Yeah.
So I have the greatest idea for an app, and I guess if someone else builds it, too bad, because I'm giving it away.
I may have talked to him about this, but maybe not. But go ahead.
Okay. So the idea is it's a dating app like Tinder, but for parents. Okay. So like you would upload Cole's profile.
Me as the father.
You as the father. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you would get the app and you would swipe on women, on girls, or boys. I don't know, right? But whatever.
Girls
right?
that the other parents have uploaded.
Correct.
Yeah.
And when you match, you connect with the other parent.
Okay.
So you guys talk, right? And say, hey, my son's like this. What's your daughter like? And if you both agree that they should have a date, then you call Cole and say, hey, no pressure.
Well, maybe it doesn't have to be a date, but it could be like, hey, Cole, why don't you go meet this nice girl for coffee?
Date. It's a date.
Yeah.
It's a coffee date. It's it's just no pressure, just see, right? And the girl's parents would do the same. They could choose not to meet. There's nothing beyond that. If they meet, maybe they like each other. Something happens. If not, no big deal, right? So that's the idea. I think it's high time.
What do you think? Cole, can you put yourself in here and tell us what you think?
Unmute yourself. You come on.
Well, I don't know. I don't think I'm being recorded right now.
It's totally being recorded.
Oh, it's totally being recorded. Yeah.
I don't know. It's a little weird to me. It's kind of like arranged marriage stuff, but also like the parents looking at children. Is that what? That's weird. That's a little.
Well, I would say that it's not. It's even beyond that, right? I think it's beyond. I'm not just looking at the kids. I'm looking at the entire family in this situation. Where before you're swiping left and right on appearance, this is more in depth. This is like you're swiping left and right on what you think the family is going to be like, right? So it's.
No,
I think
you're swiping on the girl, thinking, "Oh, Cole would like this girl."
Well, maybe,
talk to the parents,
but yeah, well, that's you talk to the parents. You're going to get to know more about the family, right?
Of course,
yeah.
of course.
Where before it would just be a physical thing in a sense, right?
Look, I'm just saying, physical. Based on my research so far, like dating in America is so broken. It's so bad. Like, Cole, you're a freshman, sophomore?
A college sophomore.
Sophomore, yeah. So my son's also a sophomore at A&M, and I have zero. I don't think he's going to be getting any dates, in college. Maybe not, but I don't feel good about his chances. So that's why I'm like.
So it's funny because I was telling my wife this and Cole. It's like
Yeah.
before he got here, I was scrolling through my Instagram feed, and you know how this kind of random stuff comes up, and it's like, okay, I know that a lot of parents out there are going to have their kids come back from college for the winter break, and remember to never do this. Never ask them if they're dating anybody. Never ask them how if they love it or not. And I'm thinking like, well, these are all the things that are my thing, but this guy giving parent advice, which is, you know, the correct amount of parent advice. And now here I am on a podcast nationally talking to about.
Exactly. So anyway, all right. Having said that,
thanks, Cole.
Thanks, Cole. Cole's, if you have young, attractive daughters, I'm sure Greg would like to hear.
Oh, he's just embarrassed. He's never going to do this again now.
But this is going to be a fun episode, you know. So this is the penultimate episode for 2024. And I think what we decided was today we're going to talk about kind of the year in review. And next week, because that will be for New Year's, we will make our predictions for next year.
Yep.
Right. So let's get into it, man. Year in review, 2024. Start. What?
I mean, I think 2024 was. I mean, what you know, the spark was lit in 2023 with the lawsuit and the settlement, right? So that's what to me has defined this year is the settlement.
Right. I completely agree.
And
but the settlement was in 24. They lost a lawsuit in 23 in November, and then in March, I think it was, the settlement was, sort of agreed to, and then obviously we know about the August 17th date, and then now it's finally approved. Yeah. You're right. I think the settlement is 2024 is the year of the settlement.
It is the year of the settlement, but I also think we have to mention also just the market itself. I mean, the high interest rates and low inventory have still persisted, and you know that makes it tough for a lot of people that listen to this, and a lot of people that manage people that listen to this, and so that has to be part of the story as well.
Right.
I don't think it could come in a worse time. You know, these types of things. So I think those both have to be kind of talked about as far as a year in review here. But I mean, to me, definitely on this podcast, it's all about the settlement and the thing here on that. And I would say to a lesser degree that did tie into other things like the association and MLS kind of a relationship.
Of course.
CCP.
Of course.
All that I think was driven by the settlement. Really kind of revealed some of, you know, what's the Warren Buffett quote, when the tide goes out you see who's naked.
Yeah.
Right. So and that kind of thing, it did kind of reveal some of the flaws and some of the underlying problems we've had.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agreed. I've been writing this now for a couple of months. I really think like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you know, like historically when we look back, we're going to say 2024 was like the pivot year, right? It's when like everything changed. We don't see it yet. We haven't, and this is one of the things, like, where was I? I was on a recent, like a virtual conference, and people are talking about like, and you've been mentioning it as well, the commissions are down a little bit, but it's not the end of the world, you know.
Right.
NAR still got one. I think they have more members now. I think the number of realtors increased.
Really? Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it is amazing.
You know, like, I think the latest print on the transaction numbers is over 4 million. I remember we had an episode we talked about it's like below 3.6 or something, but it was annualized. I think the November numbers came at over 4 million. So it's like, you know, maybe it's not that big a deal, right? Do you know what I mean? A lot of folks are starting to feel like, okay, it's the new normal. There's a little bit more annoying paperwork you got to do, right? There's a little bit more, you know, steps, but really it hasn't.
When I
really
think
changed.
about that a little bit is like a lot of the, I mean, you and I are on Twitter following a lot of other agents and people in the industry, and what they are saying is that the interest rates, yes, are an issue, but the further we're along, like this is year 3 of higher quote unquote interest rates.
Yeah.
The anchoring that was there before with the 2% and the 3% or less, they're more in the rearview mirror, so they're not going to as further we can go in an environment where those interest rates are going to be at what they are,
Yeah.
it's better for the industry because it just makes the sellers and the buyers think, okay, well, this is what it is, right?
Yeah. So, but that's the narrative. But I genuinely think we're going to look back and go, no, 2024 is when like one chapter ended and the next chapter began. I actually feel like we could start talking about real estate 2.0 going forward, right? Or maybe it's 3.0, right?
Yeah,
so
3.0 is probably
if
better.
you say real estate 1.0 is everything before the creation of NAR, right, in 1907, right? So this is where like there was, like it was just Wild West, right? Just crazy fraud and, all sorts of nasty whatever. There's no licensing. NAR, comes about like 1907, early 20th century, right? Starts lobbying state legislations for licensing and real estate laws, and that persists really until 2024. And I think that's going to be what we'll look back on.
Yeah, I mean, this is, just nomenclature, right? But I would, the way I would kind of do real estate 1, 2, and 3 would be real estate 1 was before the internet.
Okay.
Right. And then real estate 2 was when the
Okay.
internet, and that, because that gave way to the gatekeeperness of this whole industry going.
Sure.
And I think this is real estate 3.0, where now the break apart of the cooperation and compensation is happening, right? So I mean that's how in my head I kind of this 1, 2, and 3 kind
Yeah,
of
that's
thing.
fair.
Yeah.
I mean, look, man, we could incorporate it. I could go. It's real estate 4.0, right? That's coming.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Right,
Exactly.
Which is the post compensation world.
right.
Yeah. But when you think about look back at the year as a whole, yeah, the housing market was a story. But it's like the housing market's been kind of crappy for a bit, right? For a while. Like inventory problems, we've been talking about that since 2017?
Yeah, I mean, as we talked about before, it's to me, it's this long, sellers market that we've had, unusually long. That has really exasperated a lot of the problems, like CCP, like pocket listings, like all these other things that are plaguing us right now.
Yeah. So, I feel like that's the new normal. So I don't know if the housing market, I mean, it was unusually bad, right? It was below 4 million.
Well, I think they said if you combine the inventory levels or the transaction levels of last year and this year, it's the lowest it's been in 30 years or something. I mean, it's pretty bad. Yeah,
it's really bad. And I did a couple of tweets where I pointed out high home prices aren't good for the industry because overall sales volume is down, right? And overall GCI commission pool is way down, right? Because nobody's buying because people can't afford it. Yeah, it's almost that simple, But to me, 2024 was two big, massive, revolutionary pivots. Right? One is the settlement, and the other is the Trump victory, right? Which it just brought on not just a political change. I feel like it's brought on this shift in culture as well, right? And how that's going to impact real estate? Everything impacts real estate. And real estate tends to impact everything else. So I'm really curious what 2025 is going to bring. We'll save that for, our next episode with the predictions.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how I've been looking at it. And then when you think about CCP and all the other things that have happened, I'm sort of the opinion that 2024 might be when, at least NAR died. And here's what I mean by died. I don't mean they're kaput, right? I feel like before the settlement, NAR just was seen as the daddy, they're the power. They are the industry, right? After the settlement, I can't help but feel more and more people are starting to be the emperor has no clothes.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't put it any other way.
Right.
It is that kind of event for sure.
Because CCP, it's not like Compass has been doing. They've been doing private exclusives forever, right? The loophole in clear cooperation always existed, right? But I feel like none of them took the step. We haven't seen that level of aggression of saying, hey, back off, like you need to change this. This is utter horseshit, whatever. We haven't seen that until the settlement sort of showed like maybe NAR is not that powerful.
Well, I mean, you have different things. Kentucky, right, that we talked about, and something recently in the news is NAR
Phoenix.
is going after Phoenix, right,
Yep.
for some innovative thing they're trying to do in it. And
Yep.
I think your tweet was actually kind of funny, but it's true, right? I mean, there's a bit of truth to it as well, right? So.
Yeah. And
They're lessened in. They are definitely they've lost. If the emperor doesn't have no clothes, at the very least, they've lost a lot of the luster of, of what that organization is, right? And then you add a sex scandal, 10 articles from the New York Times.
Right.
There was just one on the Washington Post about with an awful headline about secretive listings. It's not a good look, man. It's not a good look at all.
Yeah, and then I don't know. So, all right, let's just go. If we say, would you agree that the settlement is the biggest news of 24?
Yes.
What would you say is number 2?
Market.
That's not news.
Well, I think it's news that it didn't go up, right, or up substantially, right?
Did anyone expect it to?
Well, I think there's some people out there that think that there'll be a little bit more of a pivot in 2025. I know some of the vendors were pushing that. I mean,
right. Okay, so that's 2. What's 3? What's the third biggest story of 24?
in real estate,
Yeah.
I would say
Because it's
CCP.
not Kenny, right? Because that was last year.
yeah, I would say CCP,
Okay.
which is a derivative of what's been going on.
Right. Okay.
Right. And then I guess other things that I would put in there is like you're starting to see a continuation of the changing of the old guard, right? There's a lot of MLS execs that have retired or announced retiring. So you're seeing some of that new blood come in. I think, the Denver, the real RE Colorado.
Okay. Okay.
But again, that's an offshoot, I think, still of some of the shit that's been going on in the industry as far as like.
I don't know. I think the Denver one is a little separate.
You think it's
for me, the fourth biggest story for me, maybe just ahead of Denver, is Alabama Association, right? Where the state is like, we need to take another look at this.
So Alabama. I think I said
Yeah.
Kentucky before, but
Yeah,
it's Alabama.
It's
Okay.
Alabama, and then Phoenix, right?
Right.
And we don't know yet. I mean, who knows? Like, we still have 10 days left in this year, 11 days left in this year, so we might see something come out of that.
Well, one of the things could be, I mean, maybe this is a little higher if you give it in a category, is the decline of NAR, of NAR.
Right. That's what it's
right?
like. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that maybe is more of the
settlement,
thing.
Housing market, and then decline of NAR.
Yeah.
Right. The power and authority of NAR.
Yeah.
Right.
The lessening, the great lessening, right?
The great lessening. Yeah. So and then that then leads to CCP 3-way agreement. Potentially under attack. Okay. What's next after that?
Okay, if we go down a little further,
Like the big news stories
but of organized real estate, right?
of just real estate in general. I mean, for me, it's related to the CCP story, but I think Compass acquiring ad properties is a big story.
Right. Compass
It just gets lost under the thing, but I think that's a big deal.
Well, I mean, I'm not. I would say Compass has been acquiring revenue since its inception, so I'm not sure that's a big story in the sense that it's only a big story in the sense that there were few acquisitions going on in the prop tech space as far as vendors are concerned and the brokerage space. So that being a pretty big deal could put it up there, but. I mean, this is what they do. They acquire revenue.
Yeah.
That's how Compass grows, right? They acquire revenue.
I know, but I'm saying it's a big deal because at least for the last couple of years, I got the sense. I don't know if you did as well. I got the sense or sentiment that like people were thinking that Compass was sort of done. Like it's over. Like the hot, the new sort of king of the block, if you will, was EXP, right? They went public. They're profitable, right? They're growing like crazy. It wasn't Compass. I feel like there was a sense that Compass is really struggling. They're losing tons of money. They don't have any money. They're just like a done. They're the past, right? I got that sentiment.
Yeah, I mean they were down.
acquisition-
Yeah, but they were down like I think late 2023 to $2 a share.
Right.
They're up at 6, right?
Right.
So I mean that's not too shabby actually,
No,
right? I mean,
yeah, you're right. Like 23, like early 24, there were a bunch of people wondering, is Compass going to be filing bankruptcy? And a lot of the things that Compass is doing, people were positioning that as they're really desperate.
right.
These guys are really desperate. They didn't got nothing going on. And then they go and do something like acquire ad properties. It's like,
Right.
nah, Compass is just fine. Like they got a war chest, they got money, they got capabilities. And obviously that connects to the CCP story because now Compass has even more market share, right? And it's painting like a fairly clear strategy going forward, right?
Is it a different strategy than they've always had? They've been acquiring revenue that's their strategy. I mean, it hasn't changed.
Right. But the last big acquisition that Compass did, I want to say, was the company out in California, Northern California. What was Mark
Alon
McLaughlin's
Pinnell?
company.
That was a while ago.
No, Mark McLaughlin's company.
Yeah, Alon Pinnell.
Was that Alon
no,
Pinnell?
sorry,
it
Pacific.
wasn't. What I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was a few years ago.
Yeah. I mean,
Right?
they've
Like
had
20
little.
like
They've had
22,
teams
23?
join them and some other stuff, but
Correct.
yeah, okay.
Which they've
yeah.
always had. Recruiting is always a thing, but I don't remember them making a
So
big
it's
acquisition.
really just a return to the strategy, right? I mean, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or, yeah. And I think that's bigger news than people have given credit for, I would say. Right.
Well, I don't know how to, to me, I don't know how to look at that because, I mean, I've had some friends who've had brokerages who had to shut down or sell because of just it's a really shitty market, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and so the story could be it could be Compass's return to their strategy, or it could be another brokerage is put on the chopping block, right? I mean, I don't know, the behind the scenes of the. I've always heard that property was, a gem there, but
Right.
you never know, right?
You never know. I mean, we don't know the numbers, but I'm just saying. But you're right. It doesn't. It doesn't feel, again, without knowing any of the inside story, like no one was like at properties in deep trouble. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, but
Again, we don't know.
do you really know about any of that ever
Sure,
happening? Right?
sure,
I mean,
sure. But let me put it this way: there are a number of people who think like Redfin's in deep trouble.
right.
Okay, nobody's like, oh man, app property's in deep shit.
Well, but Redfin, you can look at they're a public company. App properties,
Agreed.
you're not.
Agreed. It's just a sentiment. I never got the feeling like ad properties was in deep trouble.
No, me neither. Me neither.
And they're the 8th largest brokerage, in the country. That's a big merger. That's a big deal, right? And again, it doesn't get talked about enough. Why? Because there's so many bigger stories, right?
Yeah.
Like,
But let me go back to something you said. It's their market share, and I thought that you were kind of making the kind of extrapolation that because Compass is getting bigger, their strategy on CCP seems more in line, right? Is that kind of what you're saying?
kind of, and it's like Compass doing an acquisition now feeds into their private exclusive strategy much more directly.
Right, but okay, so let me pull the thread on that with two things, right? So the fact that NAR didn't make a decision on CCP at the annual conference to me is a win for people that are supporting CCP.
Right.
And a loss for Compass.
Right.
Right. Okay. So then another thing that I wrote about, and I'm not sure if you caught the article because it's back on paywall, is Washington Post wrote an article about how there's a lot of industry strife over secret listings, right? Secretive listing practices. And it was actually, I mean, if you didn't read it, and we'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah.
I thought it was a well-balanced article about CCP and what the perceived benefits are, or at least the side of the story that Refkin is always touting versus what, whatever.
Right.
Now, what I did is I read the story and I kind of like, okay, this is kind of balanced here. But I went to the comments because I'm curious after people reading
Right.
this type of thing. And then I will give a shout out to Brian Barrero at CMLS. I mean, he was Nostradamus on this, right? His talk was about how do we want to be perceived in the media going forward, right? And what he was worried about, is it going to be realtors fight for access of listings to everybody? Or is the headline going to be in the Washington Journal, Street Journal, realtors demand secretive listing networks, right? And holy shit, if you read the headline of this article, this is exactly what Brian talked about, where this is one of those article headlines the industry does not need, right?
Right.
In this time. So I went to the article, I went to the comments. Now, interesting about that, just a little bit of background, is that I guess the Washington Post, which I'm a subscriber to, had changed the way they do their commenting system. I know, like
Okay.
Inman News has Facebook
Yeah,
plug-in,
yeah,
which has
yeah.
always got spam in it or whatever. But I guess recently the Washington Post changed their commenting system with some AI in it. Now, most people that were commenting on the article, first of all, complained about how crappy their new commenting software was, right? So like, I hate this. Why don't you go back to the old thing, right? But then they would make a comment about the article itself, right?
Right.
So what that commenting software did is it aggregated, as AI software does, and says, here's the main consensus of what the what people thought about this article, right?
Right.
And I'll quote what it was. Concerns include the potential for discrimination, the manipulation of property prices by flippers, and the lack of transparency in pocket listings, which may benefit agents over sellers. Some suggest reverting to traditional methods or eliminating agents altogether. So to me, I think this is a pretty good analysis of the public's perception of this on a fairly, as I say, balanced article about CCP, that they're saying, hey, either we go back to the old way, which we have now, or we get rid of agents, right? So I had kind of tongue in cheek had mentioned like Mr. Refkin should take a look at that, and as he always touts that his real customers are his agents,
Right.
is he okay with telling them that nobody wants them anymore? Right, if this goes through, right? So,
Right.
all this to kind of come around to your thing of like the app properties acquisition makes it a better case for Compass and their efforts on CCP and exclusive listings. I don't think the public wants it. I think this is just a byproduct of this extended seller's market. And if he's basing a strategy upon exclusive listings, as soon as this market flips, and it always flips to buyers, and they're going to come running back to mama on the MLS, if his strategy is all about exclusive listings, he's, you may see another reversal in his stock price.
Anything's possible.
Yeah.
Anything's possible. I mean, I guess what occurs to me is I can't think of a group of people that would be less representative of the people than the Washington Post comment section.
Oh God, it's always some sort of political thing with you.
It's not a political thing. It's just,
Okay,
do you
people that read the paper aren't real people. That's what you're telling me.
Do you think people? First of all, people are subscribers of the Washington Post. You think they're the public?
I subscribe to the Washington Post.
Do you think you're the public?
Yeah, of course I'm the public. What do you think I am?
Top 1%?
Oh God, Jesus.
I mean, don't fucking deny it. I mean, you have like how many successful exits under your belt? Like, if you're not the 1%, then who the fuck is?
Rob.
I got you, Mitch. All right.
You did not get me.
I'm just saying you are the 1%.
No, I'm not the 1%. If you know, you understand where my background and how I grew
do
up.
know. I
all
know.
right? So
that's why we get along, because we're both from like blue collar work.
Okay,
background.
so then
But
how am
we're
I
the
not?
1%.
How,
Greg, we're the 1%. Just fucking admit it. We're the 1%. All right. The average American household income is $72,000 a year. Like, we're the fucking 1%. Just admit it, right? So I'm just saying, I just don't think that the Washington.
Okay, let me
Post
ask a question.
section-
Here. Oh, I got a fucking slam dunk for you right now, bro.
slam it.
Okay, let me ask you who. Oh God, I can't believe I fucking got this. I wish I was there to punch you in the face with this right now. Who are Compass's best customers? Go.
Luxury sellers.
The fucking 1%, bitch.
Yes, I know.
Right. Okay, so hold on. Now, we just come all the way around here, man. Right? So you've just told me that the people who read the Washington Post are the 1% and therefore are not representative of the people. Okay?
Yeah.
They are representative of fucking Compass's customers.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
and they don't want it. And they don't want it. And they don't want it is what that says there.
Thank
okay?
you for setting me up for my real point.
Oh, what do you mean, son? Oh, God.
My
dude.
first point was
Dude.
just simply a throw, like, watch the post, whatever, right? The real point, though, is Compass sure is breaking all, like, their numbers are still there. I mean, I could pull it up. I think they did something like 180,000 transactions last year.
Listen, okay.
They're number one in volume. So here's what I mean.
Okay, hold on.
Well, hold on.
What is there? We
Let
just
me
talked
make the
about
point,
this.
and then you could talk about it, right? But my point is, there's a gap between what people say and what people do. Right? In other words, like Washington Post commenters might say this is terrible, get rid of the agents, and then you look at like Compass's actual sales figures. It's like seems to be doing just fine. Right? And here's the second part of this. Compass has been doing this private exclusive thing for a long time, right? For a while. And now they're putting a real push behind it. Okay? I'm not seeing Compass's numbers plummet because sellers are like, screw that, I'm not doing private exclusive. I'm just not seeing it. Right? In other words, people will say all kinds of shit in comments channels, and then they'll do something else. It's just like when people say, because this is a stat you love so much, you go into a survey, like something like 80 or 90% of people are like, I love my agent. I would absolutely use that agent for my next transaction. And then like 10% of people actually do. Right? There's a gap, dude. That's all I was pointing out. That's my real point. Okay, continue. Go.
Okay, so I mean, again, what is Compass's business model?
It's a split-based brokerage.
No, they acquire revenue. They buy brokerages to bring revenue on. This has nothing to fucking do with, that's how they get those numbers, not by exclusive listings or anything else. They're buying revenue from other by buying brokerages and teams. Of course their numbers are looking good. They're buying revenue, right? I mean, I can get rich selling fucking dollar bills for $2. Absolutely. Right? I mean,
all right, now I got to do this. Okay. Now I got to do this. All right. So.
Are you going to share a screen?
I'm going to share a screen. Share screen. Okay, here we go. Real Trends 500. Top real estate brokerages by volume in 2024. Boom, Compass, 177,000. Right?
Sure.
Well, that's 2023 volume, but still. So you're telling me that Compass in 2023 went and bought 177,000 transactions.
All those things are coming from companies they bought. Yes.
When? In 2023?
Well, I mean, 2021, 20. I mean,
okay,
that's all they've been doing.
Right. So in other words, Compass agents who work for Compass or under the Compass flag went out and got 177,000 transactions.
Well, they're under the flag now because they were bought by Compass. Yes.
Fine, but they're still Compass agents doing the private exclusive thing, right?
Okay, to me, this is not the same as like a Remax.
Why is it not the same?
Because Remax is not buying Alon Pinnell. They are not buying fucking app properties. They're not buying, these things that already has a bunch of transactions that come right underneath their thing right away.
So, like Home Services was put together mostly through acquisitions. Anywhere was put together mostly through acquisitions.
We can talk about them too. We're talking about Compass right now.
Well, my point is like it doesn't matter when they acquired. The point is 177,000 transactions done by Compass agents, right? Who went out there and did the song and dance and said, hey, private exclusives coming soon, this, that, or the other thing. List with me, I will get you the best top dollar, right? Washington Post commentators like, this is awful. We should, go back to the old ways or get rid of agents. Meanwhile, Compass agents are like doing deals, making bank, right? I'm just saying, like, there's a gap between like what people say, what people claim, and what they actually do. That's all I'm getting. That's all I'm saying.
All I'm saying is, like, I mean, and this happens a lot with other companies. Let's put it this way, right? When a company right before the end of the quarter buys another company so they can bring that revenue on and show that they're doing so well, does Wall Street kind of discount that because they know that's because of the acquisition, not because of incremental cost of incremental revenue they made? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I don't know what that means, though. That has no bearing on what we're talking about.
Well, I don't know what it means when you're saying, well, people are commenting, but they don't mean it. I mean,
you're saying that the 1% who are the Washington Post
who are the customers of Compass.
Correct, but if that were true, then Compass's results would look significantly worse.
Well, again, we're still in the middle of this fight because Compass is doing Office exclusives. They haven't been able to implement their entire strategy of doing public marketing without those kind of guidelines yet, right? So we're still in the middle phases here.
Agreed. I'm just pointing out, but the Compass has been doing Office exclusives since 2000. This isn't some new thing. This is a brand new thing that Compass just started to fire up last month. Right, everyone's known Compass does this. This has been
so do a lot of brokerages. So do a lot of brokerages.
Exactly. Yeah. Howard Hanna does the same. Like everyone does. Like, and I'm just saying, people could say one thing, and then you look at like who are they listing with? They're listing with Compass agents. Who are they buying with? They're buying with Compass agents.
The article is talking about a world beyond just exclusive listings. That's the premise of the article. Is that the CCP is going to be okay. Now this is going to be even more hidden, more anything. So that's what they're commenting on. They might be okay with, as the industry is okay with this now. What they're commenting on, Rob, okay, is what it could be. And they're looking at that future and saying, that's bullshit. Either we go back to where we are now or we get rid of agents, right?
Well, here's the thing. If that's the case, then we should immediately get rid of CCP. Right? Because the market, the consumer will speak very loudly. And the minute that a Compass agent walks into a rich person's penthouse apartment and goes, hey, I would like to list your home, and that rich guy goes, yeah, but you're with a Compass company, and I know they're all about secret listings. Fuck that noise. I'm not listing with you. Guess what? Compass is going to change their policy like this. The market is going to tell us, and this will be the prediction that we'll work on for next episode show, right?
Okay.
But I mean, all this agony and all this yammering, okay, let's find out. If it's ultimately the consumer that's going to decide, then let's find out. Let's find out,
I think we have a good compromise now. I mean, I think, as I said
before.
What's
the compromise?
Well, I think people are talking about, and it did state this in the article, that maybe the way we have it needs to be a little bit of tweaking. We've talked about this on the show before, right? So I think there is room for improvement on it, but to just get rid of it all the way, I don't think so.
It's going to gotten rid. All right, we're anticipating next week's show, but I've written a post about this. Look,
kudos to you for basically me showing you how absolutely wrong you were to turning it into something else. This is what you're a master at, okay? So.
What am I master at?
Well, you started with saying, who are these people aren't real people. And then I basically flipped it on you and said, no, these are exactly the people that are fucking Compass customers. And then you wanted to downplay it by something else by saying, well, nobody means what they say anyway. Come on, man.
My real point was fine. They're the exact people who would be Compass customers, and they're flocking to Compass, making the number one brokerage by sales volume.
Again, and the article's talking about what it could become, right? That's
okay.
We're arguing about.
I guess we'll find out. So here's the thing: if once they start doing all this stuff, and then Compass just loses 40% market share because all of these rich Washington Post commenters are like, screw that, I'm not listening with Compass anymore. Where's the XP at? I'll be like, hey man, you were right. I'll be the person that you was right. It's just. We're all anyway. We're anticipating stuff that's going on in the future. Maybe CCP will be the big thing in 2025. Maybe that's what
I think it's got potential. I think it's got potential.
It's got potential. I don't. I think it's going to be completely different. But so And I think that
We'll wait for that one. Yeah.
Fuck it. Let's just get into it a little bit. Because it's
The discipline we have on this show is like
right?
it's so paper thin.
No, the reason for it is because it could directly implicate some of the other big stories we talked about. Right? In that, I think the fact that the industries look at NAR going, they're a paper tiger, they've been lessened. The three-year agreement is under challenge, and MLS are starting to leave NAR. Right? I'm saying the CCP thing flows right into that. So it's worth talking about. Like, here's a question, right? Because again, we only have 11 days. What does Phoenix Association of Realtors do next?
Fight.
Right? I mean, that's what's interesting. Neither of us are sitting here and go, oh my God, they got a cease and desist letter from Big Daddy. They got spanked. Neither of us is saying that Phoenix is they're gonna go bend the knee. Yes, sir. We're sorry, sir. Right? We fucked up. Forgive us. Neither of us think that's going to happen, right?
I don't think so. I mean,
don't either.
Basically, these associations are fighting for their life. They're fighting for relevancy. So
right.
I mean,
So Phoenix Association gets to cease and desist and go, you know what? Fuck that. We're fighting NAR. Right? In other words, I now know NAR. You got no clothes on. You're the emperor with no clothes on. Right? What are you going to do to me? Right? Okay, cease and desist letter. Screw you. We're out. Now what? And does Phoenix Association
I think
keep things like CCP?
I think CCP is a different issue, Rob, because a lot of MLS have done studies and show why it's not effective. There are fair housing implications here, which really kind of tug on different heartstrings than like association relevancy. Look, I mean, again, like everything I say, you're going to dismiss. If I come up with some facts and figures, you're great. Well, nobody really means what they say, Greg. I mean, you're a master at this. You're a master of like, I make great points, and you want to diminish them right to the ground.
Greg, here's the problem. The problem is that fair housing has always been this fig leaf that the industry throws up in order to justify all kinds of shit that has nothing to do with fair housing. The industry doesn't give a fuck about fair housing. Some certain individuals might, but please, there's so many structural issues that are fucking with fair housing that industry don't give a crap about. So no, I don't buy it. And that's a whole separate debate that we should be having. I'm just going back to my point, which was, what does Phoenix do next? And you and I are both in agreement Phoenix will fight. Right? And I'm not agreeing with you. I'm not saying that Phoenix will therefore get rid of CCP. That's not what I'm saying. Right? I'm saying now the whole conversation around CCP, people pretending like we're going to keep it. Like NAR is going to, like, we're not going to make any changes. And I'm like, who cares what NAR changes or keeps it? Because if Phoenix says we're out, then the conversation moves to the Phoenix level, and now the debate is have it all over where the decision actually gets made, which is at the Phoenix level. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
In other words, like, all these folks, like, God bless them, like Dwiggins, defending clear cooperation policy, and CMLS doing its white paper, and NAR.
Lots of others.
Lots of other people.
Leo, including
EXP. Right, and including the opponents, right? Including
Redfin.
Going and saying, right, CCP needs to be defeated, and debating all this policy at the NAR policy level. I'm saying, why? Like, who cares, almost, right? Because it seems evident to me, based on the stories that we heard in 2024, the movement, the decision has now moved down to like the Phoenix Association level. That's what I'm getting at. It's moved to the MLS level, right? Maybe 2025
I understand what you're saying. I mean, I mean, we saw Bright totally ignored.
Great example.
Totally ignored. So I'm not disagreeing with you there. Where I guess I'm disagreeing is that I think CCP is a different animal than a lot of other things. And whether you cynically want to say that most people don't care about fair housing, it's a fig leaf or whatever else. I don't agree with that. I think there's a lot of people that
let us agree
that do not feel that way.
Let us agree that would be the first topic of our live stream in the new year. That'll be fun.
Maybe we should save that topic for. Well, it might be too spicy for
What?
reset. So yeah.
What? MLS reset?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about it. You know, there's certainly be, LobbyCon and stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
The MLS reset thing, I do think the biggest news is already Colorado for MLS reset. Like, I'm planning.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, it's all connected, right? I mean, for sure. I think that goes into the larger subject, which to me is what you've been talking about since 2016, is that separation, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not sure
divorce.
if it's I'm not sure RE Colorado is the personification of really that. I think there's a lot of palace intrigue that happened with that's beyond
Of course.
the larger issue, but I
Of course.
understand what you're saying.
Right, but this is the point that I'll make again, over and over probably. So the fact that we're doing it on this podcast and now I'm going to do it at Reset is probably, okay. What I'm so interested in now, and this is why I named Dana Bennett as like one of my 7 most interesting people. So what does an MLS look like when the CEO has finally been set free? Right. There's no association interference in Colorado now. That thing is privately owned by like 2 dudes.
I would say to you though, let's look at the org chart of that, right?
Sure. Which, by the way, I don't have. I don't know if you have. I don't know who the new board of directors are. Right. I don't know.
Who would know? Who would Dana report to now?
The board.
I don't think they have a board.
I bet they have a board just because corporate-wise, you almost kind of have to have a board. But I'm gonna bet.
I think right now the board is.
I think it's Dana,
Mr. Burks.
and I think it's the 2 owners.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
So it's like I don't think that is a CEO who's been let free, right?
Oh, it absolutely
I think
is.
now. No, I think she's free to do what her owners tell her to do.
Right. Today,
What's the difference?
What's the difference? Today, the MLS CEO has boards that meet monthly and give them marching orders.
Right. So she gets more orders than ever. Before she was only getting them once a month. Now she's getting them every day.
Maybe. I don't agree.
I don't know.
We don't know.
But I mean,
we don't know.
But
You're right.
if I'm an owner of something, it's like I'm going to be looking at every expense that's going. I mean, now I own it, right?
That's right.
It's like, okay, what are you spending that on? Why is this person
right.
here? How
That's
much are
right.
they making? I mean,
That's right.
so that to me, if I've got to answer my owner here with all those questions, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm beyond free. I'm more tied down than ever. Now that I have really just 1 or 2 people focusing on everything that I'm doing because it's my money.
Correct. But they're going to focus on the money. Right.
Right.
Right. And that's my point, which is every company, right? What they're not going to focus on is, whatever, some, small broker versus mid-sized broker, the equity balancing, and what does this association think, and the president of Smedra believes that. Nobody cares about that now, right? Whereas I know for a fact, under the old regime, right, Gene Millman, the CEO, had to care very much about, okay, what do the 2 associations think? What do the association leaders think? What do the brokers think? I got to go do all this politicking. Dana doesn't anymore. To your point, all Dana has to do is make my owners happy.
I just don't know if that's an easy job or not. That's all.
I'm not saying it's an easy job, but significantly easier. I think. I just fundamentally think that and you're a businessman. It's way easier to just run a business and run politics.
Well, I've always been the owner, though. I mean, I haven't if I, I'm the one that an owner operator is a way different thing than me having to kind of have an owner tell me well, you can't give raises to anybody this year. I'm not going to allow it. You're not going to, we're not going to do bonuses. We're not going to do any travel.
Right.
We're not going to, I mean, it's,
okay.
It could be way different.
I can't wait because you're now in the MLS consulting world. Towards the end of next year, after you've or forced to deal with that. And then you compare it to back when I was an owner-operator running a business versus I'm trying to help the CEO of this MLS deal with their decision making.
I don't think that I don't think that a guy like Mr. Burks is, as far as that's interested in EBITDA or anything else, is hiring any consultants anytime soon, right? So if it goes that way, the business I am is done, right? As far as consulting to privately owned MLSs, I think that's done.
I think that, who knows? But I'm just saying that's why I think the Ari Colorado thing, I'm just bringing it up because so many of our listeners are in that space, right? It hasn't gotten the attention, maybe, right? The importance, because we had so many big things happen in 2024, right? So many, like commissions, the market, CCP, I mean, so we haven't really thought about it. I'm just saying, okay, as part of this year-end wrap-up, over the holidays, when everything shuts down for a while, I think if you're an MLSC or to go back and start thinking about it, all I'm saying is one of the things you should think about is the importance of that deal and what it could potentially mean going forward, right? So, we need to wrap up, but I do have one final big news item, right? And this is big news in the sense that I have no idea what this necessarily means, but we've touched on it. I think it's the appointment of Gail Slater to the Antitrust Division of the Department of Justice. Right. And I think that's a big deal because I think what it signals to me is that the Department of Justice will be aggressive next year. And people are assuming that Trump won. Trump's a business guy. He hates, government, whatever. So he's going to back off. Like the expectation is that Trump DOJ will back off NAR. Right? My expectation after the naming of Gail Slater is it's not backing off. I think they come hard. Thoughts?
I don't know much about Gail, so I couldn't give you any thoughts about it right now, but I could definitely do some more research there.
And I don't know shit about her either. I don't think anyone who's not a Washington insider, though. It's just I'm going based on the fact that she was like the legal advisor for J.D. Vance, right? Who has been named as one of the conservatives. He's not necessarily, pro-corporate, pro-business, right? He's very anti-big tech. We know that. We don't know is he anti-big real estate.
Yeah.
Right. So based on that, I'm saying I think the Department of Justice is going to be way more aggressive next year than people imagine. And now, of course, we have completely stepped into our next show.
Predictions.
So,
all right, well, looking forward to that.
Yeah. So let's wrap with this. I mean, I would love to know from the audience, if they have their perspective on 24. So, please comment. Let us know what you think about kind of the year that wrapped. And if you have predictions, let us know. Maybe we'll incorporate that into our show on the predictions. So, well, with that, my friend, wonderful year.
This is a good one.
I don't know if maybe we should have done this last, but I think we'll probably, comment on how great this year was for us. It's been really fun.
Yes.
So I'm going to save all the maudlin shit for next episode when we'll do the, Auld Lang Syne songs and such. But wonderful. Thank you all so much for, for listening to us. And like I said, if you have attractive young daughters, Greg would like to hear from you as soon as possible. Right.
Not for me.
Not for him, clearly.
Hey, everybody. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Christmas.